places. You see where these.
So where are you from?
I am coming to you live from Baltimore, Maryland, but I am from Massachusetts.
Gotcha.
Hence the name Boston Realty Institute. We do real estate investment from New England all the way to Mid-Atlantic. Yes. The East Coast.
Guess what, Marouane? Matt says that he's from Boston.
Hey, Matt. Red Sox. Yeah. So today we are in Baltimore. We're doing a project here, rehabbing a 40,000 square foot warehouse. We just acquired another property. Actually, I was coming from the closing table. As I'm coming to you live, I literally have the closing documents in my hand. I just bought another property. But the question is, was it the right move? Is it smart to buy properties when the interest rate is like doubling in a single year? That's amazing, right?
No, I'm on a webinar.
We got. So since it's 6 o'clock or a little bit past 6 o'clock, should we get started? I'm only like 1 block away from our condo here in Baltimore, so we can get started and then go from there. But because everybody's from different places and this is a first-time home buyer seminar, I want to talk about it from the perspective or from the angle of a real estate investor, if that's okay with everybody. And you don't have to chat. You can just put a thumbs up, or you can do some chat, or you can do some Q&A. You can do, there's many ways you can like let me know whether it's cool with you, or put in the chat the things that you would like to cover in this 30 minutes so that everybody leaves here satisfied with committing their 30 minutes with me this evening. So I was going to talk about a little bit about real estate, first-time home buyer, not only from the angle of just being a first-time home buyer, but in general from the concept of a real estate investor. So is that cool with everybody?
Yes.
Awesome. So let me ask everybody the first question, right? So we're going to try to make this a little bit interactive, like exchange ideas, talk about some general stuff. What do you guys look at? What do you guys look for? What do you guys think of as the first thing, the first thought that comes to mind when you're looking at buying real estate? Whether you're going to buy it as an owner-occupying investor, or whether you're going to buy it as a first-time home buyer, what is it that you look for? Because the idea behind buying real estate, right, is that if you're going to invest in real estate, you want to invest in real estate in something that is going to appreciate, that's going to grow in value, right? Real estate should not go down in value, but it should go up in value. If it doesn't go up, maybe it should stay stagnant. Maybe it should hedge inflation. But you don't want to get up, go buy a real estate property, and then all of a sudden the value of that property goes down or the equity is lost. You don't want to have a replica of 2008. Am I correct? So what is it, do you guys think, is the very, very first thing that you should be thinking of, looking at, before deciding to buy a house, a building, a condo, something? Can you guys put the answer, what you think, on the chat? Let me know what you guys think. What is it that you think is the first thing you should do?
We have a comment from Alfred. He says that I want to learn how to make profit from buying a house.
Well, that's the reason why I'm asking this question. if you want to make a profit buying a house, you have to make sure that when you're buying it, it doesn't go down in value, but it goes up in value, so that you can refinance and pull cash out, or so that you can sell it and walk away with your profit, or so that you can pay down and have the debt service coverage ratio be covered by the tenant. All of those things. That's the reason why you want to buy a house, is to make money, right? So if that's the case, what should you look for? What's the very first thing you should think about when you're doing that project, when you're making that acquisition?
And now we have Jason saying first thing maybe will be know how much do I want to invest.
Thank you. I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah, we have another comment from Jason. He says that first thing maybe will be knowing how much do I want to invest.
Okay, what about the first thing being the labor market? The labor market. That's the very first thing you want to do, is figure out what the labor market has to do. What is employment doing? If the employment is going up, then it's a safe bet to invest. If the employment is going down, then you want to be cautious. Do you guys know why Detroit is hurting? It's because everybody moved away from Detroit. Everybody's going. So the real estate market in Detroit is going down. Does that make sense? So the very first thing you do is you look for the real estate, the employment trend when you invest in real estate. Employment trend is the number one thing you need to look at when you need to decide whether you're going to invest in real estate. And where do you find employment trends? Labor statistics. You go to the Department of Labor Statistics and you figure out what's going on with the real estate, with the employment trends, to figure out whether the real estate market is a good time to invest or it's a bad time to invest. Then the second thing you want to look for is the cost of capital. If the interest rate is going up, it might be very expensive for you to invest in real estate. If the stock market, if the interest rate is going down, it might be a good time to invest in real estate. That I have then is this a good time to invest in real estate? What do you guys think? Is it a good time to buy? I am well, sir. How are you? Bad time to buy. I don't know if I agree with you, Matt. It's not a bad time to buy necessarily. The answer is it depends. It depends on how long you want to hold your real estate investment for. How long? So if you want to buy a property, you go to post that sell in the next 12, you might want to be careful. And it might be, but if you're planning to hold your real estate property for the next 10, 20, 30 years, then it might be a good time to buy. But even that, you still have to think about, where it is that you're buying that property. And that's the biggest factor that you have to consider. Where are you buying that property? Do you guys understand? So I wouldn't necessarily make the judgment directly to say, oh, their interest rate is 7-8%. Employment is going down. And on top of all of that, gas prices are up. There's a conflict there's a war in Europe. The economy is bad. Let's not buy any real estate right now. I don't know if I would say that, because saying that might put you in a position where you miss a lot of great opportunities, right? However, if the goal is to hold on to the property for 10, 20 years, now might be a better time than ever to buy real estate. If that makes sense. You guys understand what I'm saying? So the whole concept of buying real estate is really about one thing. How much holding power? How long can I hold a bad project? Or how long can I hold a project that I cannot sell? That is the determining factor behind me buying a property or not. And that can be mitigated by evaluating if employment is going up in a market, because the people that have jobs are the people that are going to buy your real estate project or your property or your investment. Even if you're owner occupant and you're buying a property and you buy it in a place where there's a lot of jobs, a lot of growth, when you're ready to move on, you can sell your property very, very easily, if that makes sense. So the first thing you have to think about is this a market that's going to go up in value in the next few years? If the answer is no, then you might want to think twice about buying that home in that market. A strategy that you can do is, suppose that you want to live in Detroit and the real estate market is not strong in Detroit. Employment is not strong in Detroit. So you don't want to take the risk and buy a property in Detroit because of the labor market is not strong. What do? You buy a house in another market where the labor market is strong, where the employment is strong, where there's growth, and then you rent that house out and use the revenue from that house to pay for your property that you're going to live at as a tenant in a market where the labor market is not strong, where the labor force is not strong. I don't know if that makes sense. Because the moment where you're ready to dispose of your investment, the place where the employment is strong, it will yield a highest return on your money. Does that make sense? The first rule of investing in anything, right? There's entire books written about it. The first job of an investor is what? Is asset protection, capital protection. So the money that you put down, you have to make sure that it is safe. But I tell you, real estate, you might think that real estate is the safest thing in the world, but I can tell you a lot of stories of a lot of people that invested in real estate and they wish they hadn't. The concept of foreclosure, is because not every real estate transaction is a safe transaction. The second thing is that when you understand the concept of the labor market being an important factor behind your investment decision, behind your buying decision, the things that you want to be careful about is that you want to avoid buying a property in a market where the number of employers are small or one. What do I mean by that? I want to avoid buying a house in a market where the only employer is Amazon. The only employer is FedEx. The only employer is the US government because there's a military base. That's the only employer. Because what happens is if that one employer goes out, everything collapses. That's how important understanding labor market in real estate is. That's the most important thing. Then after labor market, then you look at transportation because people need to go from their house to their job. Transportation is the second thing. If it doesn't have a strong infrastructure, strong transportation, then you want to think twice before you invest your capital into that project. And then, of course, the third thing is the cost of capital. How much money does money cost? How much money does money cost? If money is expensive, you're going to have difficulty selling your property. If money is cheap, it will be easy for you to sell your property because other people can borrow at a very low cost to buy your expensive property. Now, real estate is a cycle. It goes up, it goes down, it goes all sorts of ways. Real estate is a cycle. And so is the cost of capital. Cost of capital goes up, cost of capital goes down. In the 1990s, interest rates were over double digit, 12, 13, 15%. Back in the early 2000s, we saw 7% interest rate. Late 2008, all the way to we were at the 6.5. The pandemic forced us to be negative interest rate for like 10 years or whatever after the 2008 crash. And now it's going back up to 7% and things like that. That is a cycle. So what does that mean? If you buy real estate right now, make sure that you have the ability to pay for it. If everything fails, to pay for it for at least the next 5, 10, 15 years, because an average cycle is about 7 years. So people say, oh, this is the best time to invest. We're never going to see a time like this. Well, every 7 or 10 years, you're going to see cycles like this. Every 7 to 10 years, if you pay attention to the real estate market, you will see cycles like this. So what you want to do is, if you're going to be a long-term investor, what you're going to do is dollar cost averaging, like the stock market. Every couple of years, you buy 1 or 2, and so on and so forth. Some of them are going to be expensive. Some of them are going to be cheap. Some of them are going to be good deals. Some of them are bad deals. But over the long term, it will average out to be great investments, particularly since you can leverage all of your acquisition like no other asset. So that's the beautiful thing about buying real estate. But since this is a first-time home buyers class, let's talk about how do you get started. Well, the first thing is, a lot of times when you're the first-time home buyer, you don't need a lot of capital because FHA, VA, all these first-time home buyer programs are there to help you buy the property. But if you buy the wrong property as your first property, it impacts your ability to scale up, to ramp up, and to ramp up quickly. So, for example, as a first-time home buyer, I would avoid buying my first property as a condominium. I would look for duplex, triplex, because it allows me to get 3 condos, essentially, 3 condos for the same percentage of down payment. But if I already own 1 or 2 condos, the next property, I have to put 20% down. And the next property, thinking that I'm going to scale up, will be a 2-family or 3-family or duplex or triplex. The requirement of the down payment will be higher because the price for that property is going to be higher. So the first property I want to buy is not a condominium. It is a duplex, a triplex, something substantial, something large with a small down payment. Now, of course, there are ways around it. So if I'm going to buy a commercial property or a multi-unit family of 4 units or higher, my down payment will have to be 20% anyway. So I don't want to worry about that part. But a duplex or 2-family, a triplex or 3-family, the down payment is the same. The process is the same, particularly if I don't own anything, the process is the same as buying a condominium. So you look at a condo, you see it's a low price, but that might be a trap if you're trying to build a portfolio. If you're trying to build a lot of properties, you want to start with a 3-unit or 4-unit, and then add another transaction where you have 2 or 3 units. Then you want to do the 3rd one, because the 4th one that you do, they're going to require 20% down. And hopefully by the time you get to the 3rd property, you've already built up enough equity, you've built up enough savings, you've built up enough experience to be able to get a 20% down on the next transaction. All right. I see we are getting a lot of questions. Let me look at them real quick. Right now, I am, and I am in the common area of my condo. So I haven't, I didn't want to take the elevator because as soon as I take the elevator, I'm going to get disconnected. So I'm like in the common area of my condo. So, so where do you check employment trend? Every state has a Department of Labor. Every city has, the number one job of a city is to create labor within their city. So they have statistics and projection of how fast they plan to grow employment and how they're going to invite people and all these things. So the states have offices that track employment of cities, and municipalities have offices that focus on it. And then the federal government has an entire administration. The former mayor of Boston is the head of Department of Labor. Department of Labor tracks and also makes prediction, very, very accurate prediction of labor statistics in the future. So you can check with them and see what market and what the US as a whole is doing for employment trend. But at least me as an investor, that's the very first thing I look for. And I buy property that municipals and states are doing a lot to drive employment in their territory, because that's going to have a major reflection impact on the value of the asset long term. I think that real estate is the best investment vehicle. Well, it depends on what your definition of best is, you know? So some people that bought stocks back in, like, I don't know, are really happy with their product. What else? So does this make sense, everybody? Does this make sense? So now let me talk about a couple of other weird scenarios that a lot of people get confused when they're talking about buying real estate, particularly where they're first-time home buyer or investors. Real estate agents, at least from that perspective, I know this because I teach real estate agents to get their real estate license and brokers. Real estate agents are essentially some of the best vehicles to get help in getting your real estate transaction done. But a lot of them do not have the experience to work with real estate investors or people that have the mentality of adding properties to their portfolio. They're there essentially to sell you what it is you are asking for. So if you go to a real estate agent, you say, I'm looking for a condo, the real estate agent is going to show you a condo. If you go and you say, I'm looking for a single family house, they're going to show you a single family house. So the most important thing you can do when you're working with professionals is to tell them your long-term goal. What is it that you're hoping and planning to do in the near future, so that maybe they can advise you on the right thing to do? That's number one. Number two, real estate agents most often work for the other side. So you might also be careful how you have a conversation with them, So for example, a real estate agent has a fiduciary duty to the person that typically pays them, even unless you sign something specific that says that the agent is the buyer's agent. If you don't have that document signed, that agent does not work for you, even if you're not paying, because you're not paying them. So you guys need to be aware of that. A real estate agent works for the person that pays them. The only exception to that is if they sign a document that says that they are a buyer's agent. Mortgage brokers work for the people that pays them. They are there to sell a mortgage. So you also have to be careful on how you work with them and what you tell them, what you don't tell them. Make sure that you're not afraid. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you to sign documents that, one, ties, binds, and creates a commitment. And number two, it creates a obligation of fiduciary duty from them to you. All right? So that's really important. Something people who do not have the time to find projects to invest. People who just want to put their money to work. Double it, make a profit. You get the idea. Yes, we do. Jason, so I think you've probably seen some of our YouTube. We do have a syndication The Securities and Exchange Commission regulates what's called syndication. A syndication is basically a crowdfunding of capital that we pull from people, and then we go and we do real estate projects. And we have two syndications that we've been approved for, and one is called Mansour, the other one is called Mansour X. And the Mansour Fund is an accredited, it's for accredited investor. That means that the individual that is investing in has to make $200,000 every single year, or has to have a net worth of $500,000 or more to invest in that vehicle. And there's no limit, no cap on how much they can invest. The second one is called Mansour X. That one is a CF, crowdfunding regulation, DCF, from the Securities and Exchange Commission. We got approved for that last month. That one, hopefully the invest button is going to be live either today or tomorrow. So if it's not live now, it's going to probably be live the next day or two, where it does not have an accreditation requirement. That means that you don't have to be, the 10% of America or the 5% of America. You don't have to have $1 million asset. You don't have to have $200,000 income. You can invest as low as $1,000 into that fund. And then when you invest $1,000 into that fund, we take the money, we do real estate projects. And once we do the project and we're done with it, we turn around and give you your money back plus the profit of the real estate transaction. That's called Mansour X. That one, there's absolutely no requirement to be accredited. You just have to do a check to make sure that the money that you're putting in, number one, and you as the individual are not on a prohibited list. The government regulates these things. I don't know what to tell you, but that's the way the government do this to prevent people from using those vehicles for money laundering. But we have those two vehicles. Now, what we're doing for the next 30 days is that for whoever invests and they get a share, we'll double their share. And that's how you double your investment. That answers your question. So any amount of money that you buy, so if you buy one share at $1,000, we'll credit you $2,000. So when you get your profit at the end of the investment, you'll get $2,000. If you put your money in the Mansour, that fund, say you put $5,000 and you get one share of Mansour, that fund, we will double that share so that when you withdraw, you're cashing out, or you're withdrawing two shares of that. And you could do that as many times, as much and as often you want. So that answers that question. But the website is there, and also you can message us and we can do a Q&A and a presentation and things like that. If you have difficulty, we can do that. So let me see, what was I talking about? I was talking about the professionals that are involved in it. Now, the other thing also is that when you're investing in real estate, there's a lot of opportunities out there based on the municipality and based on the state to drive people to their state. That is going to do down payment assistance, that's going to do help with rehab, that's going to do low interest rate or grant program. There's a lot of those opportunities out there, but that only applies if you're the first-time home buyer. If you become an investor, you already own 2, 3, 4 properties, it doesn't apply to you anymore. So make sure that you take advantage of that when you're buying your first house to do it. Like, for example, I bought my first house when I was 19 years old in Washington, D.C. And when I bought my house, it was $100,000. I was 19. That was a lot of money for me at the time. And at the closing table, I put 5% down. But at the closing table, I walked away with like $2,000 or $3,000 from the closing table because I looked up every single program that the District of Columbia offered to first-time homebuyers, and I took advantage of all of it and applied for a bunch of things, and I did it. And I even asked for cash back from the seller of the house. I said to the seller, hey, I'm going to give you the $100,000 that you're asking for your house, but I want you to pay for my closing costs, and I want you to give me $1,000 as a seller, as a buyer's credit, because I want to use that $1,000 to do something like, I don't know, I think it was like fix the backyard or fix the garage or something like that, because it doesn't meet my satisfaction. So when we bought the house, the seller paid for the closing costs. He gave me $1,000. I had a VA loan, but I still put 3 to 5% down, and the government gave me like a $2,000-3,000 grant. So at the end, the closing attorney had to write me a check for $3,000. I took all of the money, put it in my pocket. Within like a year, something broke in the house, like a furnace or something like that. I used that money to fix that, because this happens more often you can imagine. As soon as you buy something, especially something as expensive as a house, something's gonna go wrong with that house. So if you don't have a saving, man, you're gonna have some problems. So make sure that when you buy that property, you put money on the side and make sure that that money goes towards emergency fund for the house, you know? And I bought my first house at 19. I was still in the military. So when I got out of the military, I started looking for a job, and it took me a while. And some of that money was used to pay for my mortgage. So you got to think about those kinds of things in that sense to figure out and make sure that no one is there for you. No one's going to look out for you. So you got to look out for yourself. That's all I'm trying to say. You got to learn, you got to dig deep, and you got to research all these things. And you got to do it for yourself, by yourself, to make sure that you're successful. So I talked about agents. I talked about mortgage brokers. I talked about getting money from the city and things of that nature. Let me see. If you're doing a transaction, you're buying a house, unless you're getting something really, really good in exchange, do not waive anything. You should always have a home inspection, because home inspection is going to tell you what a problem you can anticipate and expect in the near future. Now, if you're getting 10, 20% discount on the house, you can waive the home inspection. But if you're not getting something substantial, I would not waive home inspection. I wouldn't waive things like radon, asbestos, lead paint, and things of that nature. I would want to know if those things are there, because those things could also be used as a tool for negotiation. So I make an offer. I do all of the project. I mean, I do all of the back thing, the home inspection, the lead inspection, the radon, the termite, and do all of those things. And I am not happy with the report. I can go back to the seller and say, hey, the home inspection came and said, this wrong. I'm paying you $100,000 for this house. I think you should give me $5,000 or $10,000 discount because it has this and this and that. And a lot of people will think twice and think hard to figure out, do I want to take my house back and put it on the market? Or do I just want to take this one at a discount because he's already spent money in doing the due diligence that he has to do, if that makes sense. So even if they're going to say no, they might come back with a counter offer versus accepting it, but you might still get something out of it. So don't waive it, especially at the beginning. Don't waive it. Do the thing, spend the money, get the things that you need to get, and then at the end, come back to them and say, this was what was wrong. Because here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. A real estate agent, when they are licensed, they have certain rules that applies to them that they have to comply with the law. So if a real estate agent knows that there's something wrong with his house, they have a legal obligation to disclose it to any customer from the moment where they know there's something wrong with that house. So if you just made an offer on a house and then you find out that there's something wrong with the house, and then you went and told the real estate agent, based on an inspection report, this foundation is defective, the roof is leaking, there's termite, or there's asbestos, or there's lead. That agent, if that agent keeps the listing, has to tell that to any other customer in the future. That's the law. That's the agency disclosure. They have to let the customers know that. So in every state, that's the law. I mean, I have a license in 12 different states. I have a broker's license in 12 different states, and all of them cover the exact same thing on agency disclosure. So once the agent knows that, any other person that comes and makes an offer, they have an obligation to disclose it. Even if they're not asked, they have to say, we had issue with the foundation. We know that the roof leaked. We know that there's termite. We know there's asbestos. Oh, and also there's lead paint because we did a test and the report says that it's positive for lead. Any other customer that comes and is told that information, automatically every single one of those things is reducing the price in his or her mind. Every single one. Like if I walk into a house and the first thing the agent tells me that it has this problem, it has that problem, it has this problem, I'm going to say, well, how much are you willing to sell it for? Right? Doesn't this make sense? So it's important to know that those kinds of things could be used as a tool to help you negotiate for a better price down the line. So don't waive anything. Don't waive anything also because you're going to learn. So you pay money to learn things. You don't pay money necessarily for just the sake of paying money. You pay the money and then you learn something from them. All right. I think we've been on the call for like 30 minutes. I know some people got to go. So let me do one last thing. We do have a Zoom-based education program for people that are trying to invest in real estate. But we know that the price is so affordable that someone that is buying their first home can also find value in it. And I think that right now might be the best time to take advantage of courses like this because of the risk. So the idea is that if interest rate is going up, if employment is going down, if things are getting expensive, inflation is taking over, and then we have people that are already talking about a recession out there. What is it that you can do if you still want to buy a house while protecting your capital, while protecting your investment, while doing it accurately? Those kinds of things are the things that we hope to discuss in our next investment class. So we have a class that we're putting together for investors in real estate, and I think that can apply to people that are also buying homes, because buying a home should be viewed as the most expensive, biggest investment that you will make typically in your life. A real estate average cost is $300,000 to $400,000. You're going to be working for the next 15 to 30 years to pay off that investment. The minimum that you could do is invest in an education that helps you save or helps you do it correctly. Because I can tell you, you buy the wrong property or you buy the property at the wrong price, at the wrong time, at the wrong way, it's going to cost you more than the cost of the class. So we do have a class that's coming up. And then if you go to bostonrealtyinstitute.com/investor, you can sign up for the class. I think the price that we have for it is at $1,400 or $1,500. It's a 6-month class that we do a weekly webinar every single Tuesday or Wednesday during the week. And then we give you blogs, white papers, notebooks, books to read, to cover the things that we talk about. And then we meet again the following week and talk about the things that we've covered, teach and do all those things. And in those group, we're also going to be doing investment by ourselves that you can join. And we can also invest in your project. If you find a project and we do the underwriting and we do the analysis and we think it's a good deal, but you lack either expertise or you lack the capital, we can partner up and do projects with you. Because essentially, at the end of the day, the reason why we're doing all these things is for one thing and one thing only: to make money. Making money by ourselves alone is boring. So we want to partner up with people and make as much money as we can. So you can message us, or you can click on the link, or you can go to the website, or you can call us and we'll connect with you guys and talk about how hopefully we can make money together. That's pretty much it for this thing. Do you guys have any questions before we wrap up? We've been on the call for like 40 minutes, so I don't want to keep too much of your time, but do you guys have any any questions before we end the call? No. Awesome, Alfred. So yeah. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I hope to see you guys in the next webinar that we're going to have soon. All right.
Thank you. And guys, you will receive a small survey just after this webinar. So feel free to answer all of the questions, and we'll appreciate it if you do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Look at Baltimore, huh? Baltimore is a beautiful city. But it's getting cold. You don't see that in Arizona. No, you don't. Arizona is a flat desert, you know what I mean? And the other thing about Arizona, if I could tell you, Arizona is one of those places where you have to be incredibly careful with the real estate, because the value of real estate most of the time is based on replacement value. Based on replacement value. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. I'll talk about that in another session. See you guys later.
Thank you. And if you have questions, you can let me know. And we can schedule or book a call with Marouane so he can answer more of your questions. But thank you for joining today's webinar. We appreciate it. Have a good day. I will leave the links in the chat if you want to schedule a strategy call. And also I will leave the YouTube channel, the link for our YouTube channel so you can watch more content. Thank you.